the term institutionalized racism is something that escapes a lot of people.
Okay.
So maybe
that's good too. That's helpful.
You know what I mean?
No, I get you. I get you.
We'll say institutionalized racism, and I mean, I get it, but it's like, that's a big word. And when you think about what are the roots and what are some of the entry points of institutionalized racism, what policies exist now that are based on models that had institutionalized racism already built in.
Right.
Like in all the systems that exist in our country,
right?
What are some concrete examples of institutionalized racism and how far back they go?
Yeah, and see here, I think you can look at any field. You can look at education, what gets taught about history in education. That's been a constant for years. Now, what I hear now is they do a little bit more than Black History Month. There's a few people that they learn about in history, but there's not a pattern of looking at a broader spectrum of who's contributed to our history because of the way the textbook industry is run and developed. So what I've always said, and this is still true today, you don't have to be a racist to teach racism. You can just teach out of the textbook. And if I'm a child going to school and I'm reading these textbooks, I'm thinking, who accomplished what, who did what? Nobody's saying Black people or Native people and Latino people are not contributors. Nobody's saying it out loud, but by omission, they're not there. That's an institutional pattern. Who gets targeted for, and we know this is in the news all the time, who gets targeted for drug use and all these kinds of things. There's patterns of institutional patterns of looking at the Black community. And if it's an institutional pattern and that group is targeted, it's not just a one-on-one, I don't like you. It's a pattern that says, I can take away your rights. I can take away your life. So those things still exist. Affirmative action is out the window because of the reasons you said. Colorblindness. We're colorblind now, so we don't need to affirmatively try and reach out to different groups of people, even though we know, just common sense says people like being around and working with people that are more like them. And we still, as Blacks and whites and other groups of people, we still have enough social separation where we're not totally comfortable being around too many of us. And that can go any direction. I mean, that can go with Blacks being with a number of whites, that can go with whites being with a number of Blacks or Latinos. And so if there's not some kind of reaching out that says we still need to affirmatively reach out to diversify our workforce, then it's going to remain pretty much the same. And the statistics pretty much bear that out. And so those things are still institutionalized. Disparities in income, it's pretty much what it was when I was in school or when I was studying this in the 70s and 80s. It's not all that different. So that's what I mean by institutionalized. And the numbers sometimes are staggering. Oh, I mean, they're staggering. The incarceration rate is utterly staggering. And that grew out of the war on drugs, which you said where it came from? Grew out of the war on drugs, which is targeted on Black communities, even though white people were using drugs just as much as Black people. So, you know, these things in my mind, they're real for me. And so when I have to act casual about them or just bring them up like, you know, these are, you know, there's all these people going to prison and, you know, there's this huge dropout rate of Black males and all these things. It's like I have to go to people in my generation to say, okay, are you feeling me? The bottom line is I think those are institutional patterns that exist and are just as intense as they ever were.